The French Revolution, A History by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror, Chapter 1, Charlotte Corday. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain, read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 1, Charlotte Corday. In the leafy months of June and July, several French departments germinate a set of rebellious paper leaves, named proclamations, resolutions, journals, or diurnals of the Union for Resistance to Oppression. In particular, the town of Cayenne in Calvados sees its paper leaf of Bulletin de Cayenne suddenly bud, suddenly establish itself as newspaper there, under the editorship of Girondin national representatives. For among the proscribed Girondins are certain of a more desperate humour. Some, as Vergniaud, Valaze, Gensonné, arrested in their own houses, will await with stoical resignation what the issue may be. Some, as Brissot, Rabault, will take to flight, to concealment, which, as the Paris barriers are opened again in a day or two, is not yet difficult. But others there are who will rush with Buzot to Calvados, or far over France, to Lyon, Toulon, Nantes, and elsewhere, and then rendezvous at Cayenne, to awaken, as with war trumpet, the respectable departments, and strike down an anarchic mountain faction, at least not yield without a stroke at it. Of this latter temper we count some score or more of the arrested, and of the not yet arrested. A Buzot, a Barbaroux, Louvet, Corday, Pétion, who have escaped from arrestment in their own homes, a Salle, a Pythagorean Valadi, a Duchatel, the Duchatel that came in blanket and nightcap to vote for the life of Louis, who have escaped from danger and likelihood of arrestment. These, to the number at one time of 27, do accordingly lodge here, at the intendance or departmental mansion of the town of Cayenne, welcomed by persons in authority, welcomed and defrayed, having no money of their own. And the Bulletin de Cayenne comes forth with the most animating paragraphs, how the Bordeaux department, the Lyon department, this department after the other, is declaring itself, 60 or say 69 or 72 respectable departments, either declaring or ready to declare. Nay, Marseille, it seems, will march on Paris by itself if need be. So has Marseille town said, that she will march. But, on the other hand, that Montélimar town has said no thoroughfare, and means even to bury herself under her own stone and mortar first. Of this be no mention in Bulletin of Cayenne. Such animating paragraphs we read in this newspaper, and fervours and eloquent sarcasm, tirades against the mountain, frame pen of Deputy Salles, which resemble, say friends, Pascal's Provincials. What is more to the purpose, the Girondins have got a general-in-chief, one Wimfren, formerly under Dumouriez, also a secondary questionable General Puiset and others, and are doing their best to raise a force for war. National Volunteers, whosoever is of right heart, gather in, ye National Volunteers, friends of liberty, from our Calvados township, from the Eure, from Brittany, from far and near, forward to Paris and extinguish anarchy. Thus at Cayenne, in the early July days, there is a drumming and parading, a perorating and consulting, staff and army, council, club of Carabots, anti-Jacobin friends of freedom, to denounce atrocious Marat. With all which and the editing of bulletins, a national representative has his hands full. At Cayenne it is most animated, and, as one hopes, more or less animated in the 72 departments that adhere to us. And in a France begirt with Cimmerian invading coalitions and torn with an internal La Vendée, this is the conclusion we have arrived at: to put down anarchy by civil war. Durum et durum, the proverb says, non faciunt murum. La Vendée burns, Santerre can do nothing there. He may return home and brew beer. Cimmerian bombshells fly all along the north. That siege of Mentz is become famed. Lovers of the picturesque, as Goethe will testify, washed country people of both sexes stroll thither on Sundays to see the artillery work and counterwork. You only duck a little while the shot whizzes past. Corday is capitulating to the Austrians. Royal Highness of York these several weeks fiercely batters Valenciennes. For alas, our fortified camp of Famars was stormed. General Dampierre was killed. General Custine was blamed, and indeed is now come to Paris to give explanations. Against all which the mountained and atrocious Marat must even make head as they can. They, anarchic convention as they are, publish decrees, expostulatory, explanatory, yet not without severity. They ray forth commissioners, singly or in pairs, the olive branch in one hand, yet the sword in the other. Commissioners come even to Cayenne, but without effect. Mathematical Rom and Prieur named of the Côte d'Or, venturing thither with their olive and sword, are packed into prison. There may Rom lie under lock and key for 50 days, and meditate his new calendar if he please. Samaria and civil war, never was republic one and indivisible at a lower ebb. Amid which dim ferment of Cayenne and the world, history specially notices one thing. In the lobby of the mansion de l'Intendance, where busy deputies are coming and going, a young lady with an aged valet, taking grave, graceful leave of Deputy Barbaroux. She is of stately Norman figure, in her 25th year, of beautiful, still countenance. Her name is Charlotte Corday, heretofore styled d'Amont, while nobility still was. Barbaroux has given her a note to Deputy Duperrey, him who once drew his sword in the effervescence. Apparently she will to Paris on some errand. She was a Republican before the Revolution, and never wanted energy. A completeness, a decision is in this fair female figure. By energy she means the spirit that will prompt one to sacrifice himself for his country. What if she, this fair young Charlotte, had emerged from her secluded stillness suddenly like a star, cruel lovely, with half angelic, half demonic splendour, to gleam for a moment, and in a moment be extinguished, to be held in memory, so bright complete was she through long centuries. Quitting Cimmerian coalitions without, and the dim simmering 25 millions within, history will look fixedly at this one fair apparition of a Charlotte Corday, will note whither Charlotte moves, how the little life burns forth so radiant, then vanishes, swallowed of the night. With Barbaroux's note of introduction and slight stock of luggage, we see Charlotte, on Tuesday the 9th of July, seated in the Cayenne diligence, with a place for Paris. None takes farewell of her, wishes her good journey. Her father will find a line left, signifying that she has gone to England, that he must pardon her and forget her. The drowsy diligence lumbers along, amid drowsy talk of politics and praise of the mountain, in which she mingles not, all night, all day, and again all night. On Thursday, not long before noon, we are at the bridge of Neuilly. Here is Paris with her 1,000 black domes, the goal and purpose of thy journey. Arrived at the Inn de la Providence in the Rue de Vieux Augustin, Charlotte demands a room, hastens to bed, sleeps all afternoon and night till the morrow morning. On the morrow morning she delivers her note to Duperrey. It relates to certain family papers which are in the Minister of the Interior's hand, which a nun at Cayenne, an old convent friend of Charlotte's, has need of, which Duperrey shall assist her in getting. This, then, was Charlotte's errand to Paris? She has finished this in the course of Friday, yet says nothing of returning. She has seen and silently investigated several things. The convention in bodily reality she has seen. What the mountain is like. The living physiognomy of Marat she could not see. He is sick at present and confined to home. At 8 on the Saturday morning she purchases a large sheath knife in the Palais Royal. Then straightway in the Place des Victoires takes a hackney coach to the Rue de l'École de Médecine, number 44. It is the residence of the citoyen Marat. The citoyen Marat is ill and cannot be seen, which seems to disappoint her much. Her business is with Marat, then? hapless beautiful Charlotte, hapless squalid Marat. From Cayenne in the utmost west, from Neuchâtel in the utmost east, they two are drawing nigh each other. They two have, very strangely, business together. Charlotte, returning to her inn, dispatches a short note to Marat, signifying that she is from Cayenne, the seat of rebellion, that she desires earnestly to see him, and will put it in his power to do France a great service. No answer. Charlotte writes another note, still more pressing, sets out with it by coach about 7 in the evening herself. Tired day labourers have again finished their week. Huge Paris is circling and simmering, manifold according to its vague wont. This one fair figure has decision in it, drives straight towards a purpose. It is yellow July evening, we say, the 13th of the month, eve of the Bastille Day, when Monsieur Marat, 4 years ago, in the crowd of the Pont Neuf, shrewdly required of that Bessenval hussar party, which had such friendly dispositions, to dismount and give up their arms then, and became notable among patriot men. 4 years. What a road he has travelled, and sits now, about 7:30 of the clock, stewing in slipper bath, sore afflicted, ill of revolution fever, of what other malady this history had rather not name. Excessively sick and worn, poor man, with precisely 11 halfpenny of ready money in paper, with slipper bath, strong 3-footed stool for writing on, the while, and a squalid washerwoman, one may call her. That is his civic establishment in Medical School Street. Thither, and not elsewhither, has his road led him. Not to the reign of brotherhood and perfect felicity, yet surely on the way towards that. Hark! A rap again. A musical woman's voice, refusing to be rejected. It is the citoyenne who would do France a service. Marat, recognizing from within, cries, "Admit her!" Charlotte Corday is admitted. "Citoyen Marat, I am from Cayenne, the seat of rebellion, and wish to speak with you." "Be seated, mon enfant. Now what are the traitors doing at Cayenne? What deputies are at Cayenne?" Charlotte names some deputies. "Their head shall fall within a fortnight," croaks the eager people's friend, clutching his tablet to write. "Barbaro, Pétion," writes he with bare shrunk arm, turning aside in the bath. "Pétion and Louvet and—" Charlotte has drawn her knife from the sheath, plunges it with one sure stroke into the writer's heart. "À moi, cher ami, help, dear!" No more could the death-choked say or shriek. The helpful washerwoman running in, there is no friend of the people or friend of the washerwoman left, but his life with a groan gushes out, indignant, to the shades below. And so Marat, people's friend, is ended. The lone Stylites has got hurled down suddenly from his pillar. Whitherward he that made him does know. Patriot Paris may sound triple and tenfold in dole and wail, re-echoed by Patriot France and the Convention. Chabot, pale with terror, declaring that they are to be all assassinated, may decree him Pantheon honours, public funeral, Mirabeau's dust making way for him, and Jacobin societies in lamentable oratory, summing up his character, parallel him to one whom they think it honour to call the good sans-culotte, whom we name not here. Also a chapel may be made for the urn that holds his heart in the Place du Carrousel, and newborn children be named Marat, and Lago de Como hawkers bake mountains of stucco into unbeautiful busts, and David paint his picture or death scene, and such other apotheoses take place as the human genius in these circumstances can devise. But Marat returns no more to the light of this sun. One sole circumstance we have read with clear sympathy, in the old Moniteur newspaper. How Marat's brother comes from Neuchâtel to ask of the Convention that the deceased Jean-Paul Marat's musket be given him. For Marat too had a brother and natural affections, and was wrapped once in swaddling clothes and kept safe in a cradle like the rest of us. Ye children of men, A sister of his, they say, lives still to this day in Paris. As for Charlotte Corday, her work is accomplished. The recompense of it is near and sure. The chère amie and neighbours of the house flying at her, she overturns some movables, entrenches herself till the gendarmes arrive, then quietly surrenders, goes quietly to the Abbaye prison. She alone quiet, all Paris sounding in wonder, in rage or admiration round her. Duperrey is put in arrest on account of her, his papers sealed, which may lead to consequences. Forchet in like manner, though Forchet had not so much as heard of her. Charlotte, confronted with these two deputies, praises the grave firmness of Duperrey, censures the dejection of Forchet. On Wednesday morning, the thronged Palais de Justice and Revolutionary Tribunal can see her face, beautiful and calm. She dates it 4th day of the preparation of peace. A strange murmur ran through the hall at sight of her. You could not say of what character. Tanville has his indictments and tape papers. The cutler of the Palais Royal will testify that he sold her the sheath knife. All these details are needless, interrupted Charlotte. It is I that killed Marat. By whose instigation? By no one's. What tempted you then? His crimes. I killed one man, added she, raising her voice extremement, as they went on with their questions. I killed one man to save 100,000, a villain to save innocence, a savage wild beast to give repose to my country. I was a Republican before the Revolution. I never wanted energy. There is therefore nothing to be said. The public gazes astonished. The hasty limners sketch her features, Charlotte not disapproving. The men of law proceed with their formalities. The doom is death as a murderess. To her advocate she gives thanks, in gentle phrase, in high-flown classical spirit. To the priest they send her she gives thanks, but needs not any shriving or ghostly or other aid from him. On this same evening, therefore, at 7:30, from the gate of the concierge to a city all on tiptoe, the fatal cart issues. Seated on it, a fair young creature, sheeted in red smock of murderess, so beautiful, serene, so full of life, journeying towards death, alone amid the world. Many take off their hats, saluting reverently, for what heart but must be touched? Others growl and howl. Adam Lux of Mentz declares that she is greater than Brutus, that it were beautiful to die with her. The head of this young man seems turned. At the Place de la Révolution, the countenance of Charlotte wears the same still smile. The executioners proceed to bind her feet. She resists, thinking it meant as an insult. On a word of explanation, she submits with cheerful apology. As the last act, all being now ready, they take the neckerchief from her neck. A blush of maidenly shame overspreads that fair face and neck. The cheeks were still tinged with it when the executioner lifted the severed head to show it to the people. It is most true, says Foster, that he struck the cheek insultingly, for I saw it with my eyes. The police imprisoned him for it. In this manner have the beautifulest and the squalidest come in collision, and extinguished one another. Jean-Paul Marat and Marie-Anne Charlotte Corday both suddenly are no more. Day of the preparation of peace? Alas, how were peace possible or preparable, while, for example, the hearts of lovely maidens in their convent stillness are dreaming not of love paradises and the light of life, but of codrous sacrifices and death well earned? That 25 million hearts have got to such temper, this is the anarchy. The soul of it lies in this, whereof not peace can be the embodiment. The death of Marat, whetting old animosities tenfold, will be worse than any life. O ye hapless two, mutually extinctive, the beautiful and the squalid, sleep ye well in the mother's bosom that bore you both. This was the history of Charlotte Corday, most definite, most complete, angelic demonic, like a star. Adam Lux goes home, half delirious, to pour forth his apotheosis of her in paper and print, to propose that she have a statue with this inscription, "Greater than Brutus." Friends represent his danger. Lux is reckless, thinks it were beautiful to die with her. End of Book 4, Chapter 1. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror, Chapter 2, In Civil War. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Peter Dann, Book 4, Chapter 2, In Civil War. But during these same hours another guillotine is at work on another. Charlotte, for the Girondins, dies at Paris today. Chalier, by the Girondins, dies at Lyons tomorrow. From rumbling of cannon along the streets of that city it has come to firing of them, to rabid fighting. Nievre-Scholl and the Girondins triumph, behind whom there is, as everywhere, a royalist faction waiting to strike in. Trouble enough at Lyons, and the dominant party carrying it with a high hand. For indeed the whole south is astir, incarcerating Jacobins, arming for Girondins. Wherefore we have got a Congress of Lyons, also a revolutionary tribunal of Lyons, and anarchists shall tremble. So Chalier was soon found guilty of Jacobinism, of murderous plot, a dress with drawn dagger on the 6th of February last, and on the morrow he also travels his final road along the streets of Lyons, by the side of an ecclesiastic with whom he seems to speak earnestly, the axe now glittering high. He could weep in old years, this man, and fall on his knees on the pavement, blessing heaven at sight of Federation programmes or like. Then he pilgrimed to Paris to worship Marat and the mountain. Now Marat and he are both gone. We said he could not end well. Jacobinism groans inwardly at Lyons, but dare not outwardly. Chalier, when the tribunal sentenced him, made answer, "My death will cost this city dear." Montélimar town is not buried under its ruins, yet Marseille is actually marching, under order of a Lyons Congress, is incarcerating patriots, the very royalists now showing face, against which a General Carteau fights, though in small force, and with him an artillery major of the name of Napoleon Bonaparte. This Napoleon, to prove that the Marseillaise have no chance ultimately, not only fights but writes, publishes his Supper of Beaucaire, a dialogue which has become curious. Unfortunate cities with their actions and their reactions. Violence to be paid with violence in geometrical ratio, royalism and anarchism both striking in, the final net amount of which geometrical series what man shall sum? The bar of iron has never yet floated in Marseille's harbour, but the body of Rebecca was found floating, self-drowned there. Hot Rebecca, seeing how confusion deepened and respectability grew poisoned with royalism, felt that there was no refuge for a republican but death. Rebecca disappeared, no one knew whither, till one morning they found the empty case or body of him risen to the top, tumbling on the salt waves, and perceived that Rebecca had withdrawn forever. Toulon, likewise, is incarcerating patriots, sending delegates to Congress, intriguing, in case of necessity, with the Royalists and English. Montpellier, Bordeaux, Nantes, all France that is not under the swoop of Austria and Samaria seems rushing into madness and suicidal ruin. The mountain labours, like a volcano in a burning volcanic land. Convention committees of surety of salvation are busy night and day. Convention commissioners whirl on all highways, bearing olive branch and sword, or now perhaps sword only. Chaumette and municipals come daily to the Tuileries demanding a constitution. It is some weeks now since he resolved in Town Hall that a deputation should go every day and demand a constitution till one were got, whereby suicidal France might rally and pacify itself, a thing inexpressibly desirable. This, then, is the fruit your anti-anarchic Girondins have got from that levying of war in Calvados? This fruit, we may say, and no other whatsoever. For indeed, before either Charlotte's or Chalier's head had fallen, the Calvados war itself had, as it were, vanished, dreamlike, in a shriek. With 72 departments on one side, one might have hoped better things. But it turns out that respectabilities, though they will vote, will not fight. Possession is always 9 points in law, but in lawsuits of this kind one may say it is 90 and 9 points. Men do what they will want to do, and have immense irresolution and inertia. They obey him who has the symbols that claim obedience. Consider what, in modern society, this one fact means. The metropolis is with our enemies. Metropolis, mother city, rightly so named, all the rest are but as her children, her nurslings. Why, there is not a leathern diligence with its post-bags and luggage boots that lumbers out from her, but is as a huge life-pulse. She is the heart of all. Cut short that one leathern diligence, how much is cut short? General Wimpfen, looking practically into the matter, can see nothing for it but that one should fall back on royalism, get into communication with Pitt. Dark innuendos he flings out to that effect, whereat we Girondins start horror-struck. He produces, as his second-in-command, a certain ci-devant, one Comte Puiset, entirely unknown to Louvet, greatly suspected by him. Few wars, accordingly, were ever levied of a more insufficient character than this of Calvados. He that is curious in such things may read the details of it in the memoirs of that same ci-devant Puiset, the much-enduring man and royalist. How our Girondin national forces, marching off with plenty of wind music, were drawn out about the old chateau of Brécourt in the wood country near Vernon to meet the mountain national forces advancing from Paris. How on the 15th afternoon of July they did meet, and, as it were, shrieked mutually and took mutually to flight without loss. How Puiset thereafter, for the mountain nationals fled first, and we thought ourselves the victors, was roused from his warm bed in the castle of Brécourt, and had to gallop without boots, our nationals in the night watches having fallen unexpectedly into sauve-qui-peut, and in brief the Calvados war had burnt priming, and the only question now was whitherward to vanish, in what hole to hide oneself. The national volunteers rush homewards faster than they came. The 72 respectable departments, says Maillan, all turned round and forsook us in the space of 24 hours. Unhappy those who, as at Lyons, for instance, had gone too far for turning. One morning we find placarded on our intendant's mansion the decree of convention which casts us hors la loi into outlawry, placarded by archaic magistrates, clear hint that we also are to vanish. Vanish indeed, but whitherward? Gorsart has friends in Rennes, he will hide there. Unhappily, he will not lie hid. Corday, Lanjuinais are on crossroads, making for Bordeaux. To Bordeaux, cries the general voice, of valour alike and of despair. Some flag of respectability still floats there, or is thought to float. Thitherward, therefore, each as he can. 11 of these ill-fated deputies, among whom we may count as 12th friend Riouf, the man of letters, do an original thing. Take the uniform of national volunteers and retreat southward with the Breton battalion as private soldiers of that corps. These brave Bretons had stood truer by us than any other. Nevertheless, at the end of a day or two, they also do now get dubious, self-divided. We must part from them, and with some half-dozen as convoy or guide, retreat by ourselves, a solitary marching detachment through waste regions of the West. End of Book 4, Chapter 2. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror, Chapter 3, Retreat of the 11. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 3. Retreat of the 11. It is one of the notablest retreats, this of the 11, that history presents. The handful of forlorn legislators retreating there continually, with shouldered firelock and well-filled cartridge box, in the yellow autumn. Long hundreds of miles between them and Bordeaux. The country all getting hostile, suspicious of the truth, simmering and buzzing on all sides more and more. Louvet has preserved the itinerary of it, a piece worth all the rest he ever wrote. O virtuous Pétion with thy early white head, O brave young Barbarou, has it come to this? Weary ways, worn shoes, light purse, encompassed with perils as with a sea. Revolutionary committees are in every township of Jacobin temper. Our friends all cowed, our cause the losing one. In the borough of Montcourt, by ill chance, it is market day. To the gaping public, such transit of a solitary marching detachment is suspicious. We have need of energy, of promptitude and luck, to be allowed to march through. Hasten, ye weary pilgrims, the country is getting up. Noise of you is bruited day after day. A solitary 12 retreating in this mysterious manner. With every new day a wider wave of inquisitive pursuing tumult is stirred up, till the whole West will be in motion. Cussy is tormented with gout. Buzot is too fat for marching. Riouf, blistered, bleeding, marching only on tiptoe. Barbarou limps with sprained ankle, yet ever cheery, full of hope and valour. Light Louvet glances hare-eyed, not hare-hearted. Only virtuous Pétion's serenity was but once seen ruffled. They lie in straw lofts, in woody brakes. Rudest palace on the floor of a secret friend is luxury. They are seized in the dead of night by Jacobin mares and tap of drum, get off by firm countenance, rattle of muskets and ready wit. Of Bordeaux, through fiery La Vendée and the long geographical spaces that remain, it were madness to think. Well, if you can get to Quimper on the sea-coast and take shipping there. Faster, ever faster. Before the end of the march, so hot has the country grown, it is found advisable to march all night. They do it under the still night canopy. They plod along, and yet, behold, rumour has outplodded them. In the paltry village of Carlyle, be its thatched huts and bottomless peat bogs long notable to the traveller, one is astonished to find light still glimmering. Citizens are awake, with rushlights burning. In that nook of the terrestrial planet, as we traverse swiftly the one poor street, a voice is heard saying, "There they are! Les voilà qui passent!" Swifter, ye doomed lame 12, speed ere they can arm, gain the woods of Camper before day, and lie squatted there. The doomed 12 do it, though with difficulty, with loss of road, with peril, and the mistakes of a night. In Camper are Girondin friends, who perhaps will harbour the homeless till a Bordeaux ship weigh. Way-worn, heart-worn, in agony of suspense, till Camper friendship get warning, they lie there, squatted under the thick wet boskage, suspicious of the face of man. Some pity to the brave, to the unhappy. Unhappiest of all legislators, oh, when ye packed your luggage some score or 2 months ago, and mounted this or the other leathern vehicle to be conscript fathers of a regenerated France, and reap deathless laurels, did ye think your journey was to lead hither? The Camper Samaritans find them squatted, lift them up to help and comfort, will hide them in sure places. Thence let them dissipate gradually, or there they can lie quiet and write memoirs till a Bordeaux ship sail. And thus in Calvados all is dissipated. Rome is out of prison, meditating his calendar. Ringleaders are locked in his room. At Cayenne the Corday family mourns in silence. Buzot's house is a heap of dust and demolition, and amid the rubbish sticks a gallows with this inscription, "Here dwelt the traitor Buzot, who conspired against the Republic." Buzot and the other vanished deputies are hors la loi, as we saw, their lives free to take where they can be found. The worse fares it with the poor arrested visible deputies at Paris. Arrestment at home threatens to become confinement in the Luxembourg, to end where? For example, what pale-visaged thin man is this journeying towards Switzerland as a merchant of Neuchâtel, whom they arrest in the town of Moulins? To Revolutionary Committee he is suspect. To Revolutionary Committee, on probing the matter, he is evidently Deputy Brissot. Back to thy arrestment, poor Brissot, or indeed to straight confinement, whither others are fed to follow. Rabot has built himself a false partition in a friend's house, lives in invisible darkness between two walls. It will end this same arrestment business in prison and the Revolutionary Tribunal. Nor must we forget Duperrey and the seal put on his papers by reason of Charlotte. One paper is there fit to breed woe enough, a secret, solemn protest against that supreme déesse of the 2nd of June. This secret protest our poor Duperrey had drawn up the same week, in all plainness of speech, waiting the time for publishing it, to which secret protest his signature, and that of other honourable deputies, not a few, stands legibly appended. And now, if the seals were once broken, the mountain still victorious? Such protesters, your Merciers, Bayeux, 73 by the tail, what yet remains of respectable Girondism in the Convention, may tremble to think these are the fruits of levying civil war. Also we find that in these last days of July the famed siege of Metz is finished, the garrison to march out with honours of war, not to serve against the coalition for a year. Lovers of the picturesque, and Goethe standing on the chaussée of Mentz, saw with due interest the procession issuing forth in all solemnity. Escorted by Prussian horse came first the French garrison. Nothing could look stranger than this latter. A column of Marseillais, slight, swarthy, parti-coloured, in patched clothes, come tripping on, as if King Edwin had opened the dwarf hill and sent out his nimble host of dwarfs. Next followed regular troops, serious, sullen, not as if downcast or ashamed. But the remarkablest appearance which struck everyone was that of the chasers, chasseurs. Coming out mounted, they had advanced quite silent to where we stood, when their band struck up the Marseillaise. This revolutionary Te Deum has in itself something mournful and bodeful, however briskly played, but at present they gave it in altogether slow time, proportionate to the creeping step they rode at. It was piercing and fearful, and a most serious-looking thing, as these cavaliers, long, lean men of a certain age, with mien suitable to the music, came pacing on. Singly you might have likened them to Don Quixote. In mass they were highly dignified. But now a single troop became notable, that of the commissioners or representants. Merlin of Thionville, in hussar uniform, distinguishing himself by wild beard and look, had another person in similar costume on his left. The crowd shouted out with rage at sight of this latter, the name of a Jacobin townsman and clubbist, and shook itself to seize him. Merlin drew bridle, referred to his dignity as French representative, to the vengeance that should follow any injury done. He would advise every one to compose himself, for this was not the last time they would see him here. Thus rode Merlin, threatening in defeat. But what now shall stem that tide of Prussians setting in through the open northeast? Lucky if fortified lines of Wassenberg and impassabilities of Vosges mountains confine it to French Alsace, keep it from submerging the very heart of the country. Furthermore, precisely in the same days, Valenciennes siege is finished in the northwest, fallen under the red hail of York. Corday fell some fortnight since. Cimmerian coalition presses on. What seems very notable, too, on all these captured French towns, there flies not the royalist fleur-de-lis in the name of a new Louis the Pretender, but the Austrian flag flies, as if Austria meant to keep them for herself. Perhaps General Castine, still in Paris, can give some explanation of the fall of these strong places. Mother Society, from tribune and gallery, growls loud that he ought to do it, remarks, however, in a splenetic manner that the messieurs of the Palais Royal are calling, long life to this general. The Mother Society, purged now by successive scrutinies or épurations from all taint of Girondism, has become a great authority, what we can call shield-bearer or bottle-holder, nay, call it fugleman, to the purged National Convention itself. The Jacobins' debates are reported in the Moniteur, like parliamentary ones. End of Book 4, Chapter 3. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror, Chapter 4, Own Nature. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain, read by Peter Dann, Book 4, Chapter 4, Own Nature. But looking more especially into Paris city, what is this that history on the 10th of August, year 1 of liberty, by old style, year 1793, discerns there? Praised be the heavens, a new feast of pikes. For Chaumet's deputation every day has worked out its result, a constitution. It was one of the rapidest constitutions ever put together, made, some say, in 8 days, by Hérault Seychelles and others, probably a workmanlike, road-worthy constitution enough, on which point, however, we are, for some reason, little called to form a judgment. Workmanlike or not, the 44,000 communes of France, by overwhelming majorities, did hasten to accept it, glad of any constitution whatsoever. Nay, departmental deputies have come, the venerablest republicans of each department, with solemn message of acceptance, and now what remains but that our new final constitution be proclaimed and sworn to in feast of pikes. The departmental deputies, we say, are come some time ago, Chaumet very anxious about them, lest Girondin monsieurs agiojobbers, or were it even filles de joie of a Girondin temper, corrupt their morals. 10th of August, immortal anniversary, greater almost than Bastille July, is the day. Painter David has not been idle. Thanks to David and the French genius, there steps forth into the sunlight this day a scenic phantasmagorie unexampled, whereof history, so occupied with real phantasmagories, will say but little. For one thing, history can notice with satisfaction on the ruins of the Bastille a statue of nature, gigantic, spouting water from her 2 mamelles. Not a dream, this, but a fact, palpable, visible. There she spouts, great nature, dim before daybreak. But as the coming sun ruddies the east, come countless multitudes, regulated and unregulated, come departmental deputies, come Mother Society and daughters, comes National Convention led on by handsome Hérault, soft wind music breathing note of expectation. Lo, as great Sol scatters his first fire handful, tipping the hills and chimney heads with gold, Hérault is at great nature's feet. She is plaster of Paris merely. Hérault lifts in an iron saucer water spouted from the sacred breasts, drinks of it with an eloquent pagan prayer beginning, O nature, and all the departmental deputies drink, each with what best suitable ejaculation or prophetic utterance is in him, amid breathings which become blasts of wind music and the roar of artillery and human throats, finishing well the first act of this solemnity. Next are processionings along the boulevards, deputies or officials bound together by long indivisible tricolor riband, general members of the sovereign walking pell-mell with pikes, with hammers, with the tools and emblems of their crafts, among which we notice a plough and ancient Baucis and Philemon seated on it, drawn by their children, many-voiced harmony and dissonance filling the air. Through triumphal arches enough, at the basis of the first of which we descry, whom thinkest thou? The heroines of the insurrection of women. Strong dames of the market, they sit there, Torogne too ill to attend, one fears, with oak branches, tricolor bedizzlement, firm seated on their cannons, to whom handsome Hérault, making pause of admiration, addresses soothing eloquence, whereupon they rise and fall into the march. And now, mark, in the Place de la Révolution, what other august statue may this be, veiled in canvas, which swiftly we shear off by pulley and cord? The Statue of Liberty! She too is of plaster, hoping to become of metal, stands where a tyrant Louis XV once stood. 3,000 birds are let loose into the whole world with labels round their necks. We are free, imitate us. Holocaust of royalist and ci-devant trumpery, such as one could still gather, is burnt. Pontifical eloquence must be uttered by handsome Hérault, and pagan orisons offered up. And then forward across the river, where is new enormous statuary, enormous plaster mountain, Hercules purple, with uplifted all-conquering club, many-headed dragon of Girondin federalism rising from fetid marsh, needing new eloquence from Hérault. To say nothing of Champ de Mars and Fatherland's altar there, with urn of slain defenders, carpenter's level of the law, and such exploding, gesticulating, and perorating that Hérault's lips must be growing white and his tongue cleaving to the roof of his mouth. Towards 6 o'clock, let the wearied president, let Paris patriotism generally sit down to what repast and social repast can be had, and with flowing tankard or light mantling glass usher in this new and newest era. In fact, is not Rom's new calendar getting ready? On all housetops flick a little trickle of flags, their flagstaff a pike and liberty cap. On all house walls, for no patriot not suspect will be behind another, there stands printed these words: Republic one and indivisible, liberty, equality, fraternity, or death. As to the new calendar, we may say here rather than elsewhere that speculative men have long been struck with the inequalities and incongruities of the old calendar, that a new one has long been as good as determined on. Maréchal the atheist almost 10 years ago proposed a new calendar, free at least from superstition. This the Paris municipality would now adopt in defect of a better. At all events, let us have either this of Maréchal's or a better, the new era being come. Petitions more than once have been sent to that effect, and indeed for a year past all public bodies, journalists and patriots in general have dated first year of the Republic. It is a subject not without difficulties, but the Convention has taken it up, and Rome, as we say, has been meditating it. Not Maréchal's new calendar, but a better new one of Rome's and our own. Rome, aided by Monge, Lagrange, and others, furnishes mathematics, Fabre d'Églantine furnishes poetic nomenclature, and so on the 5th of October 1793, after trouble enough, they bring forth this new republican calendar of theirs in a complete state, and by law get it put in action. 4 equal seasons, 12 equal months of 30 days each, this makes 360 days, and 5 odd days remain to be disposed of. The 5 odd days we will make festivals, and name the 5 sans-collotides, or days without breeches. Festival of genius, festival of labour, of actions, of rewards, of opinion, these are the 5 sans-collotides, whereby the great circle or year is made complete. Solely every 4th year, whilom called leap year, we introduce a 6th sans-collotide, and name it Festival of the Revolution. Now, as to the day of commencement, which offers difficulties, is it not one of the luckiest coincidences that the Republic herself commenced on the 21st of September, close to the vernal equinox? Vernal equinox at midnight for the meridian of Paris, in the year whilom Christian 1792, from that moment shall the new era reckon itself to begin. Vendémiaire, Brumaire, Frimaire, or as one might say in mixed English, Vintagerius, Fogarius, Frosterius. These are our 3 autumn months. Nivos, pluvios, ventos, or say snowus, rainus, windus, make our winter season. Germinal, floreal, prairial, or buddle, floweral, meadowal, are our spring season. Messidor, termidor, fructidor, that is to say, or being Greek for gift, ripidor, heatidor, frutidor are Republican summer. These 12 in a singular manner divide the Republican year. Then, as to minuter subdivisions, let us venture at once on a bold stroke. Adopt your decimal subdivision, and instead of world-old week or sennight, make it a tennight or decade, not without results. There are 3 decades, then, in each of the months, which is very regular, and the decadi or 10th day shall always be the day of rest, and the Christian Sabbath, in that case, shall shift for itself. This, in brief, is this new calendar of Rome and the Convention, calculated for the meridian of Paris and Gospel of Jean-Jacques, not one of the least afflicting occurrences for the actual British reader of French history, confusing the soul with Messidors, Medoires, till at last, in self-defence, one is forced to construct some ground scheme or rule of commutation from new style to old style and have it lying by him. Such ground scheme, almost worn out in our service, but still legible and printable, we shall now in a note present to the reader. For the Rom calendar, in so many newspapers, memoirs, public acts, has stamped itself deep into that section of time, a new era that lasts some 12 years and odd, and is not to be despised. Let the reader, therefore, with such ground scheme, help himself where needful, out of new style into old style, called also slave style, style esclave, whereof we in these pages shall, as much as possible, use the latter only. Thus, with new Feast of Pikes and new era or new calendar, did France accept her new constitution, the most democratic constitution ever committed to paper. How it will work in practice? Patriot deputations from time to time solicit fruition of it, that it be set a-going. Always, however, this seems questionable, for the moment unsuitable, till in some weeks Salut Public, through the organ of Saint-Just, makes report that in the present alarming circumstances the state of France is revolutionary, that her government must be revolutionary till the peace. Solely as paper, then, and as a hope, must this poor new constitution exist, in which shape we may conceive it lying, even now, with an infinity of other things in that limbo near the moon. Further than paper it never got, nor ever will get. End of Book 4, Chapter 4. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror, Chapter 5, Sword of Sharpness. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 5, Sword of Sharpness. In fact, it is something quite other than paper theorems. It is iron and audacity that France now needs. Is not La Vendée still blazing? Alas, too literally, rogue Rossignol burning the very cornmills. General Santerre could do nothing there. General Rossignol, in blind fury, often in liquor, can do less than nothing. Rebellion spreads, grows even madder. Happily those lean, quixotic figures whom we saw retreating out of Metz, bound not to serve against the coalition for a year, have got to Paris. National Convention packs them into post vehicles and conveyances, sends them swiftly by post into La Vendée. There, valiantly struggling in obscure battle and skirmish under rogue Rossignol, let them, unlaurelled, save the Republic and be cut down gradually to the last man. Does not the coalition like a fire-tide pour in, Prussia through the opened north-east, Austria, England through the north-west? General Houchard prospers no better there than General Castine did. Let him look to it. Through the eastern and the western Pyrenees, Spain has deployed itself, spreads rustling with Bourbon banners over the face of the south. Ashes and embers of confused Girondin civil war covered that region already. Marseille is damped down, not quenched, to be quenched in blood. Toulon, terror-struck, too far gone for turning, has flung itself, ye righteous powers, into the hands of the English. On Toulon Arsenal there flies a flag, nay, not even the fleur-de-lis of a Louis Pretender, there flies that accursed St. George's Cross of the English and Admiral Hood. What remnants of seacraft, arsenals, roperies, war-navy France has given itself to these enemies of human nature, ennemis du genre humain. Beleaguer it, bombard it, ye commissioners, Marat, Fréron, Robespierre Jr., thou General Carteau, General Dugommier, above all thou remarkable artillery major, Napoleon Bonaparte. Hood is fortifying himself, victualling himself, means apparently to make a new Gibraltar of it. But lo, in the autumn night, late night, among the last of August, what sudden red sun-blaze is this that has risen over Lyons city with a noise to deafen the world? It is the powder tower of Lyons, nay, the arsenal with 4 powder towers, which has caught fire in the bombardment and sprung into the air, carrying 117 houses after it. With a light, one fancies, as of the noon sun, with a roar second only to the last trumpet. All living sleepers far and wide it has awakened. What a sight was that which the eye of history saw in the sudden nocturnal sun-blaze! The roofs of hapless Lyons and all its domes and steeples made momentarily clear, Rhone and Saône streams flashing suddenly visible, and height and hollow, hamlet and smooth stubble-field, and all the regions round, heights, alas, all scarped and counterscarped into trenches, curtains, redoubts, blue artillerymen, little powder devilkins, plying their hell-trade there through the not ambrosial night. Let the darkness cover it again, for it pains the eye. Of a truth, Chalier's death is costing this city dear. Convention commissioners, Lyons congresses have come and gone, and action there was, and reaction, bad ever growing worse, till it has come to this, Commissioner Dubois-Crancey, with 70,000 men and all the artillery of several provinces, bombarding Lyons day and night. Worse things still are in store. Famine is in Lyons, and ruin, and fire. Desperate are the sallies of the besieged. Brave Précy, their national colonel and commandant, doing what is in man, desperate but ineffectual. Provisions cut off, nothing entering our city but shot and shells. The arsenal has roared aloft, the very hospital will be battered down, and the sick buried alive. A black flag hung on this latter noble edifice, appealing to the pity of the besiegers, for though maddened, were they not still our brethren? In their blind wrath they took it for a flag of defiance, and aimed thitherward the more. Bad is growing ever worse here, and how will the worst stop till it have grown worst of all? Commissioner Dubois will listen to no pleading, to no speech, save this only: we surrender at discretion. Lyons contains in it subdued Jacobins, dominant Girondins, secret royalists. And now mere deaf madness and cannon shot enveloping them, will not the desperate municipality fly at last into the arms of royalism itself? Majesty of Sardinia was to bring help, but it failed. Emigrant Autichamp, in the name of the 2 pretender royal highnesses, is coming through Switzerland with help, coming, not yet come. Précy hoists the fleur-de-lis. At sight of which all true Girondins sorrowfully fling down their arms. Let our tricolor brethren storm us then, and slay us in their wrath. With you we conquer not. The famishing women and children are sent forth. Deaf Dubois sends them back, reins in mere fire and madness. Our redoubts of cotton bags are taken, retaken. Précy under his fleur-de-lis is valiant as despair. What will become of Lyons? It is a siege of 70 days. Or see, in these same weeks, far in the western waters, breasting through the Bay of Biscay, a greasy, dingy little merchant ship, with Scotch skipper, under hatches whereof sit, disconsolate, the last forlorn nucleus of Girondism, the deputies from Camper. Several have dissipated themselves whithersoever they could. Bourrioff fell into the talons of Revolutionary Committee and Paris prison. The rest sit here under hatches, Reverend Pétion with his grey hair, angry Buzeau, suspicious Louvet, brave young Barbaroux, and others. They have escaped from Campo in this sad craft, are now tacking and struggling, in danger from the waves, in danger from the English, in still worse danger from the French, banished by heaven and earth to the greasy belly of this Scotch skipper's merchant vessel, unfruitful Atlantic raving round. They are for Bordeaux, if peradventure hope yet linger there. Enter not Bordeaux, O friends, bloody convention representatives, Tallien and such like, with their edicts, with their guillotine, have arrived there. Respectability is driven underground. Jacobinism lords it on high. From that Réau landing-place, or beak of Ombay, as it were, pale death, waving his revolutionary sword of sharpness, waves you elsewhither. On one side or the other of that bec d'Ombay, the Scotch skipper with difficulty moors, a dexterous greasy man, with difficulty lands his Girondins, who, after reconnoitring, must rapidly burrow in the earth. And so, in subterranean ways, in friends' back closets, in cellars, barn lofts, in caves of Saint-Emilion and Libourne, stave off cruel death. Unhappiest of all senators. End of Book 4, Chapter 5. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine, Book 4, Terror. Chapter 6, Risen Against Tyrants. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain, read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 6, Risen Against Tyrants. Against all which incalculable impediments, horrors and disasters, what can a Jacobin convention oppose? The uncalculating spirit of Jacobinism and sanscalotic sans formulistic frenzy. Our enemies press in on us, says Danton, but they shall not conquer us. We will burn France to ashes rather. Nous brûlerons la France. Committees of Sûreté or Salut have raised themselves à la hauteur, to the height of circumstances. Let all mortals raise themselves à la hauteur. Let the 44,000 sections and their revolutionary committees stir every fibre of the Republic, and every Frenchman feel that he is to do or die. They are the life circulation of Jacobinism, these sections and committees. Danton, through the organ of Barrère and Salut Public, gets decreed that there be in Paris by law 2 meetings of section weekly. Also that the poorer citizen be paid for attending, and have his day's wages of 40 sous. This is the celebrated law of the 40 sous, fiercely stimulant to sansculotism, to the life circulation of Jacobinism. On the 23rd of August, Committee of Public Salvation, as usual, through Barrère, had promulgated, in words not unworthy of remembering, their report, which is soon made into law, of levy in masse. All France and whatsoever it contains of men or resources is put under requisition, says Barrère, really in Tarteian words, the best we know of his. The Republic is one vast besieged city. 250 forges shall in these days be set up in the Luxembourg garden and round the outer wall of the Tuileries to make gun barrels, in sight of earth and heaven. From all hamlets towards their departmental town, from all their departmental towns towards the appointed camp and seat of war, the sons of freedom shall march. Their banner is to bear Le peuple français debout contre les tyrans, the French people risen against tyrants. The young men shall go to the battle. It is their task to conquer. The married men shall forge arms, transport baggage and artillery, provide subsistence. The women shall work at soldiers' clothes, make tents, serve in the hospitals. The children shall scrape old linen into surgeons' lint. The aged men shall have themselves carried into public places, and there by their words excite the courage of the young, preach hatred to kings and unity to the Republic. Tarteian words which tingle through all French hearts. In this humour, then, since no other serves, will France rush against its enemies. headlong, reckoning no cost or consequence, heeding no law or rule, but that supreme law, salvation of the people. The weapons are all the iron that is in France. The strength is that of all the men, women, and children that are in France. There in their 250 shed smithies in garden of Luxembourg or Tuileries, let them forge gun barrels in sight of heaven and earth. Nor with heroic daring against the foreign foe can black vengeance against the domestic be wanting. Life circulation of the revolutionary committees being quickened by that law of the 40 sous, Deputy Merlin, not the Thionville whom we saw ride out of Metz, but Merlin of Douai, named subsequently Merlin Suspect, comes about a week after with his world-famous Law of the Suspect, ordering all sections by their committees instantly to arrest all persons suspect, and explaining withal who the arrestable and suspect especially are. Are suspect, says he, all who by their actions, by their connections, speakings, writings, have, in short, become suspect. Nay, Chaumet, illuminating the matter still further in his municipal placards and proclamations, will bring it about that you may almost recognise a suspect on the streets and clutch him there, off to committee and prison. Watch well your words, watch well your looks. If suspect of nothing else, you may grow, as came to be a saying, suspect of being suspect. For are we not in a state of revolution? No frightfuller law ever ruled in a nation of men. All prisons and house of arrest in French land are getting crowded to the ridge tile. 44,000 committees, like as many companies of reapers or gleaners, gleaning France, are gathering their harvest and storing it in these houses. Harvest of aristocrat tares, nay, lest the 44,000, each on its own harvest field, prove insufficient, we are to have an ambulant revolutionary army, 6,000 strong, under right captains. This shall perambulate the country at large, and strike in wherever it finds such harvest work slack. So have municipality and mother society petitioned, so has convention decreed. Let aristocrats, federalists, messieurs vanish, and all men tremble. The soil of liberty shall be purged with a vengeance. Neither hitherto has the revolutionary tribunal been keeping holiday. Blancheland for losing Saint Domingo, conspirators of Orleans for assassinating, for assaulting the sacred deputy Léon Baudin, these with many nameless to whom life was sweet, have died. Daily the great guillotine has its due. Like a black spectre, daily at eventide glides the death tumbrel through the variegated throng of things. The variegated street shudders at it for the moment, next moment forgets it. The aristocrats, they were guilty against the Republic. Their death, were it only that their goods are confiscated, will be useful to the Republic. Vive la République! In the last days of August fell a notabler head, General Custines. Custine was accused of harshness, of unskilfulness, perfidiousness, accused of many things, found guilty, we may say, of one thing, unsuccessfulness. Hearing his unexpected sentence, Custine fell down before the crucifix, silent for the space of 2 hours. He fared with moist eyes and a book of prayer toward the Place de la Révolution, glanced upward at the clear suspended axe, then mounted swiftly aloft, swiftly was struck away from the lists of the living. He had fought in America. He was a proud, brave man, and his fortune led him hither. On the 2nd of this same month, at 3 in the morning, a vehicle rolled off with closed blinds from the temple of the Conciergerie. Within it were 2 municipals and Marie Antoinette, once Queen of France. There in that conciergerie, in ignominious dreary cell, she, cut off from children, kindred, friend, and hope, sits long weeks, expecting when the end will be. The guillotine, we find, gets always a quicker motion, as other things are quickening. The guillotine, by its speed of going, will give index of the general velocity of the Republic. The clanking of its huge axe, rising and falling there in horrid systole, diastole, is portion of the whole enormous life movement and pulsation of the sans-culotic system. Orleans conspirators and assaulters had to die, in spite of much weeping and entreating, so sacred is the person of a deputy. Yet the sacred can become desecrated. Your very deputy is not greater than the guillotine. Poor deputy journalist Goursat, we saw him hired at Rennes when the Calvados War burnt priming. He stole afterwards in August to Paris, lurked several weeks about the Palais ci-devant Royal, was seen there one day, was clutched, identified, and, without ceremony, being already out of the law, was sent to the Place de la Révolution. He died recommending his wife and children to the pity of the Republic. It is the 9th day of October, 1793. Goursat is the first deputy that dies on the scaffold. He will not be the last. Ex-Mayor Bailly is in prison, ex-Procureur Manuel. Brissot and our poor arrested Girondins have become incarcerated, indicted Girondins, universal Jacobinism clamouring for their punishment. Duperrey's seals are broken. Those 73 secret protesters, suddenly one day are reported upon, are decreed accused, the convention doors being previously shut that none implicated might escape. They were marched in a very rough manner to prison that evening. Happy those of them who chanced to be absent. Condorcet has vanished into darkness, perhaps like Rimbaud sits between two walls in the house of a friend. End of Book 4, Chapter 6. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle. Volume 3, The Guillotine. Book 4, Terror. Chapter 7, Marie Antoinette. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 7, Marie Antoinette. On Monday, the 14th of October, 1793, a cause is pending in the Palais de Justice, in the new revolutionary court, such as these old stone walls never witnessed, the trial of Marie Antoinette. The once brightest of queens, now tarnished, defaced, forsaken, stands here at Fouquier-Tinville's judgment bar, answering for her life. The indictment was delivered her last night. To such changes of human fortune, what words are adequate? Silence alone is adequate. There are few printed things one meets with of such tragic, almost ghastly significance as those bald pages of the Bulletin du Tribunal Révolutionnaire which bear title Trial of the Widow Capet. Dim, dim, as if in disastrous eclipse, like the pale kingdoms of Dis. Plutonic judges, Plutonic Tinville, encircled 9 times with Styx and Lethe, with fire, Phlegethon, and Cocytus named of lamentation. The very witnesses summoned are like ghosts, exculpatory, inculpatory. They themselves are all hovering over death and doom. They are known in our imagination as the prey of the guillotine. Tall ci-devant Count d'Estaing, anxious to show himself patriot, cannot escape. Nor Bailly, who, when asked if he knows the accused, answers with a reverent inclination towards her, "Ah, yes, I know, madame." Ex-patriots are here sharply dealt with, as Procureur Manuel, ex-ministers shorn of their splendour. We have cold aristocratic impassivity, faithful to itself even in Tartarus. Rabid stupidity of patriot corporals, patriot washerwomen, who have much to say of plots, treasons, August 10th, old insurrection of women. For all now has become a crime in her who has lost. Marie Antoinette, in this her utter abandonment and hour of extreme need, is not wanting to herself, the imperial woman. Her look, they say, as that hideous indictment was reading, continued calm. She was sometimes observed moving her fingers as when one plays on the piano. You discern, not without interest, across that dim revolutionary bulletin itself, how she bears herself queen-like. Her answers are prompt, clear, often of laconic brevity. Resolution, which has grown contemptuous without ceasing to be dignified, veils itself in calm words. "You persist, then, in denial?" "My plan is not denial, it is the truth I have said, and I persist in that." "Scandalous Hébert has borne his testimony as to many things. As to one thing, concerning Marie Antoinette and her little son, wherewith human speech had better not further be soiled." She has answered Hébert. A juryman begs to observe that she has not answered as to this. "I have not answered," she exclaims with noble emotion, "because nature refuses to answer such a charge brought against a mother. I appeal to all the mothers that are here." Robespierre, when he heard of it, broke out into something almost like swearing at the brutish blockheadism of this Hébert, on whose foul head his foul lie has recoiled. At 4 o'clock on Wednesday morning, after 2 days and 2 nights of interrogating, jury charging, and other darkening of counsel, the result comes out. Sentence of death. "Have you anything to say?" The accused shook her head without speech. Night's candles are burning out, and with her too time is finishing, and it will be eternity and day. This hall of Tinvilles is dark, ill-lighted, except where she stands. Silently she withdraws from it to die. 2 processions or royal progresses, 23 years apart, have often struck us with a strange feeling of contrast. The first is of a beautiful archduchess and dauphiness quitting her mother's city at the age of 15 towards hopes such as no other daughter of Eve then had. On the morrow, says Weber, an eyewitness, the Dauphiness left Vienna, the whole city crowded out, at first with a sorrow which was silent. She appeared. You saw her sunk back into her carriage, her face bathed in tears, hiding her eyes now with her handkerchief, now with her hands, several times putting out her head to see yet again this palace of her father's, whither she was to return no more. She motioned her regret, her gratitude to the good nation which was crowding there to bid her farewell. Then arose not only tears but piercing cries on all sides. Men and women alike abandoned themselves to such expression of their sorrow. It was an audible sound of wail in the streets and avenues of Vienna. The last courier that followed her disappeared, and the crowd melted away. The young imperial maiden of 15 has now become a worn, discrowned widow of 38, grey before her time. This is the last procession. A few minutes after the trial ended, the drums were beating to arms in all sections. At sunrise the armed force was on foot, cannons getting placed at the extremities of the bridges, in the squares, crossways, all along from the Palais de Justice to the Place de la Révolution. By 10 o'clock numerous patrols were circulating in the streets, 30,000 foot and horse drawn up under arms. At 11 Marie Antoinette was brought out. She had on an undress of pique blanc. She was led to the place of execution in the same manner as an ordinary criminal, bound on a cart, accompanied by a constitutional priest in lay dress, escorted by numerous detachments of infantry and cavalry. These and the double row of troops all along her road she appeared to regard with indifference. On her countenance there was visible neither abashment nor pride. To the cries of "Vive la République" and "Down with tyranny," which attended her all the way, she seemed to pay no heed. She spoke little to her confessor. The tricolor streamers on the housetops occupied her attention in the streets de Roule and Saint-Honoré. She also noticed the inscriptions on the house fronts. On reaching the Place de la Révolution, her looks turned towards the Jardin National, whilom Tuileries. Her face at that moment gave signs of lively emotion. She mounted the scaffold with courage enough. At 12:15, her head fell. The executioner showed it to the people, amid universal, long-continued cries of "Vive la République!" End of Book 4, Chapter 7. The French Revolution, A History, by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 3, The Guillotine. Book 4, Terror. Chapter 8, The 22. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain, read by Peter Dann. Book 4, Chapter 8, The 22. Whom next, O Tinville? The next are of a different colour, our poor arrested Girondin deputies. What of them could still be laid hold of? Our Vergniaud, Brissot, Fauchet, Valazé, Gensonné, the once flower of French patriotism, 22 by the tale. Hither at Tinville's bar, onward from safeguard of the French people, from confinement in the Luxembourg, imprisonment in the Conciergerie, they have now by the course of things arrived. Fouquier Tinville must give what account of them he can. Undoubtedly this trial of the Girondins is the greatest that Fouquier has yet had to do. 22, all chief republicans, ranged in a line there, the most eloquent in France, lawyers too, not without friends in the auditory. How will Tinville approve these men guilty of royalism, federalism, conspiracy against the Republic? Vergniaud's eloquence awakens once more, draws tears, they say. And journalists report, and the trial lengthens itself out day after day, threatens to become eternal, murmur many. Jacobinism and municipality rise to the aid of Fouquier. On the 28th of the month, Hébert and others come in deputation to inform a patriot convention that the revolutionary tribunal is quite shackled by forms of law, that a patriot jury ought to have the power of cutting short, of terminer les débats when they feel themselves convinced. Which pregnant suggestion of cutting short passes itself with all dispatch into a decree. Accordingly, at 10 o'clock on the night of 30th of October, the 22, summoned back once more, receive this information, that the jury, feeling themselves convinced, have cut short, have brought in their verdict, that the accused are found guilty, and the sentence on one and all of them is death with confiscation of goods. Loud natural clamour rises among the poor Girondins, tumult which can only be repressed by the gendarmes. Valazé stabs himself, falls down dead on the spot. The rest, amid loud clamour and confusion, are driven back to their conciergerie, Lazos exclaiming, "I die on the day when the people have lost their reason. Ye will die when they recover it." No help. Yielding to violence, the doomed uplift the hymn of the Marseillaise, return singing to their dungeon. Rioff, who was their prison mate in these last days, has lovingly recorded what death they made. To our notions it is not an edifying death. Gay satirical pot-pourri by Ducos rhymed scenes of tragedy wherein Barrère and Robespierre discourse with Satan, Death's Eve spent in singing and sallies of gaiety, with discourses on the happiness of peoples. These things, and the like of these, we have to accept for what they are worth. It is the manner in which the Girondins make their last supper. Valazé, with bloody breast, sleeps cold in death, hears not their singing. Vergniaud has his dose of poison, but it is not enough for his friends, it is enough only for himself, wherefore he flings it from him, presides at this last supper of the Girondins, with wild coruscations of eloquence, with song and mirth. Poor human will struggles to assert itself, if not in this way, then in that. But on the morrow morning all Paris is out, such a crowd as no man has seen. The death carts, Valazé's cold corpse stretched among the yet living 21, roll along. bareheaded, hands bound, in their shirt-sleeves, coat flung loosely round the neck, so fare the eloquent of France, be murmured, be shouted. To the shouts of Vive la République, some of them keep answering with counter-shouts of Vive la République. Others, as Brissot, sit sunk in silence. At the foot of the scaffold they again strike up, with appropriate variations, the hymn of the Marseillaise. Such an act of music, conceive it well. The yet living chant there, the chorus so rapidly wearing weak. Samson's axe is rapid, 1 head per minute, or little less. The chorus is worn out. Farewell for evermore, ye Girondins. Tedium Fauché has become silent. Valazé's dead head is lopped. The sickle of the guillotine has reaped the Girondins all away. The eloquent, the young, the beautiful and brave, exclaims Riouf. O death, what feast is toward in thy ghastly halls? Nor, alas, in the far Bordeaux region will Girondism fare better. In caves of Saint-Emilion, in loft and cellar, the weariest months roll on. Apparel worn, purse empty, wintry November come. Under Tallien and his guillotine, all hope now gone. Danger drawing ever nigher, difficulty pressing ever straighter, they determine to separate. Not unpathetic the farewell. Tall Barbaroux, cheeriest of brave men, stoops to clasp his Louvet. In what place soever thou findest my mother, cries he, try to be instead of a son to her. No resource of mine, but I will share with thy wife, should chance ever lead me where she is. Louvet went with Corday, with Salles and Valady. Barbaroux with Buzot and Pétion. Valady soon went southward on the way of his own. The two friends and Louvet had a miserable day and night, the 14th of November month, 1793. Sunk in wet, weariness and hunger, they knock on the morrow for help at a friend's country house. The faint-hearted friend refuses to admit them. They stood, therefore, under trees in the pouring rain. Flying desperate, Louvet thereupon will to Paris. He sets forth there and then, splashing the mud on each side of him, with a fresh strength gathered from fury or frenzy. He passes villages, finding the sentry asleep in his box in the thick rain. He is gone before the man can call after him. He bilks revolutionary committees, rides in carriers' carts, covered carts and open, lies hidden in one, under knapsacks and cloaks of soldiers' wives on the streets of Orleans, while men search for him, has hairbreadth escapes that would fill 3 romances. Finally he gets to Paris, to his fair helpmate, gets to Switzerland, and waits better days. Bourgoide and Salles were both taken ere long. They died by the guillotine in Bordeaux, drums beating to drown their voice. Valady also is caught and guillotined. Barbaroux and his 2 comrades weathered it longer, into the summer of 1794, but not long enough. One July morning, changing their hiding-place, as they often have to do, about a league from Saint-Emilion, they observe a great crowd of country people, doubtless Jacobins, come to take them. Barbaroux draws a pistol, shoots himself dead. Alas, and it was not Jacobins, it was harmless villagers going to a village wake. 2 days afterwards, Buzot and Pétion were found in a cornfield, their bodies half-eaten with dogs. Such was the end of Girondism. They arose to regenerate France, these men, and have accomplished this. Alas, whatever quarrel we had with them, has not their cruel fate abolished it? Pity only survives. So many excellent souls of heroes sent down to Hades, they themselves given as a prey of dogs and all manner of birds. But here too the will of the Supreme Power was accomplished. As Vergniaud said, the revolution, like Saturn, is devouring its own children. End of Book 4, Chapter 8.